Welcome to Victory the Podcast. I'm Doug Ellin.
I am Kevin Connolly.
And I am Mark Cuban, filling in for Kevin Dillon.
Wow. Dillon, you're finised. I hope you're hearing this at the Louvre in Paris.
Yeah, Dillon, you can't really offer us basketball tickets, so I'm not sure what you could do. How you doing, Mark?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on.
No, I mean, it's awesome to have you. And you know, look, I started reminiscing about how this all came about back in the day. Krista Parkinson emails me randomly, and everyone, so you understand, there's no social media at the time.
Nope.
Mark's not a giant, bigger than us
Pre-Shark
TV
Tank,
star.
yeah, pre-Shark Tank.
And it's like, okay, what are we going to do with Mark Cuban? You know, and we thought of this thing, and I'm like, would you be up for it? And it was kind of a Shark Tank thing. You know?
Yes, it was great. I mean, I was shocked. I went in, because everybody wants to do a cameo in Entourage, right? And by the way, like, if I travel outside the United States, no one knows Shark Tank. No one knows the Mavericks. Every time it's Entourage.
Really?
Oh, my God. I've seen you on Entourage. That's my favorite show. I mean, I could be Australia, you name it, anywhere. That's all they talk about. But, you know,
so is there any thought that we helped you get Shark Tank? Is that possible?
Yes, 100%. Are you kidding me? My acting chops, bam.
So Mark, to refresh your memory, Mark did 5 episodes. 5 episodes in the movie?
Yeah.
So what is that?
The movie.
Plus
plus
the movie.
Little things. I counted 8 because anytime you showed me, that counted.
You know what? So Mark is kind of like a regular.
Yeah,
Right?
with that many episodes, he's got to be up at the top of recurring characters.
I mean, he's definitely showed up more than Dillon showed up for the podcast. I think. So that's pretty
But I got to
good.
tell you, right, because Krista asked me about an Entourage. I'm like, are you shitting me? Of course, yes. And then I get there thinking, okay, I'm going to do my little spiel, right, typical cameo. And then all of a sudden, Doug's like, okay, we got the storyline. And I'm like, oh, fuck, this is great. You know, are you kidding me? And then you had me like acting, not just with the guys, but like with real actors. And I'm like melting. How
Odenkirk.
Yeah. You know,
He's a legend. Bob
he's a
Odenkirk.
legend. And who was the guy that had the tequila company? He was in.
Oh, yeah. Someone give us his name. He's
Hispanic,
amazing.
What?
I mean,
What?
Carlos Avion.
Oh,
Yeah,
my God.
yeah,
he was
yeah,
in Clear and
Carlos.
Present Danger. He
Yes,
played
that's what it
Pablo
was.
Escobar in Clear
Yeah.
and
To hit the
Present
guy with the
Danger.
bat.
Amazing.
That's all I'm thinking about.
I'm embarrassed that I don't know his name right now, but he's awesome. But also, I remember, so people always ask, like, how we write a script. So obviously, when you're coming on, I'm going to make you look as good as I
Yeah,
can
of
possibly
course.
make you. And you wanted at the time, you were talking about, I think it was content partners.
Yes,
you know?
right?
Yeah. So you were like, hey, can I
Longer.
switch this to that?
Oh,
And-
my God, that's right.
And it also, you know, Mark, we're doing a podcast now. You were at the forefront of this stuff. You started broadcast.com, which
First streaming, yeah.
I remember at the time going, what the fuck
I'm
is
like, I don't
this?
understand. I don't understand.
I
I
didn't
got
understand.
torched. You guys have no idea because it was hard to stream back then, right? You had to have a PC, a modem, this and that.
This is 98?
95.
95.
Early 95. And I'm like, okay, so there's this internet thing that's going to be big. What? And you're going to be able to listen to anything from anywhere in the world and then soon watch it. What? And then my friends be like, you're a fucking idiot. I'm going to turn on the motherfucking TV, bro. I don't need this shit. And then I'm like, you just wait. You just wait.
But also, you could listen to games that you wouldn't be able to listen
Well,
to.
that's the whole thing, right? That's what I
If
said.
you want to
yeah.
listen to some random college game, you would be able to listen to that.
Like when we were in Dallas trying to listen to Indiana basketball, literally we would get a 12-pack, we would have a speakerphone, and someone in Bloomington, Indiana would have a speakerphone next to a radio. And we'd listen to the games and sit there and yuck it up, right? That was the only way to do it. So my guy Todd Wagner was like, you're the geek, figure this out. I'm like, let's go.
You know, it's amazing, and I don't know if Connolly will have a date on this, but like 82, 83, when the Islanders come back from 3-1 against the Penguins,
That was
against your Penguins, by the way.
Yeah, by the
but
way.
but I am in the middle of
the third cup run.
But I'm like at the Cayman Islands or something like that, where you can't get the game, and I'm on a shortwave radio. It's going in and out and in and out.
Okay, so the same type of story. 91, the last time the Pirates had a streak where they were really good, right? I'm in Spain, and I'm listening to Armed Forces radio on an AM radio, and I'm moving it around to listen to the
Get the
Braves,
signal.
Sid Bream, slide across home plate to beat the Pirates the last time they were really good.
There is something, obviously you want to watch it on TV, but there is an excitement on a radio
Yeah,
call.
it's different.
When you hear a big, there's something exciting about it. You remember big radio calls, and these guys are so big. Have you seen this guy, the Chris King, the Islander guy?
Yeah.
They hate him.
Yeah.
But, man, does he call a game winner like it's nobody's business?
Yeah,
It's
well, I
amazing.
mean, I love it. I've always loved radio, and so I,
Well,
you know,
especially if you
obviously-
grew up with it. Like when you were a kid, you didn't have a TV in your, at least, for us, didn't have a TV in your room. So you listened to the games on the radio, like when you were going to bed, and that's how you grew up.
Yeah. And so, Krista calls me up. Obviously, at the time, you're living the dream that obviously, Connolly's dream too, but for every Jewish kid, We want to be a pro.
I can't play
I don't
anything.
get to dream like that.
Yeah,
Doug.
right?
I don't get to dream big.
No, but what I was saying is Jewish kids, of course, we dream about being professional athletes, but that rarely happens. So we kind of dream we're going to own a team one day. And rarely does that happen. So when you get into the team, did you look for Pittsburgh first? How did that go about?
So first, when we sold broadcast.com, I'm like, oh, fuck, this is like the world just changed, right? And someone called me up and said, Mario Lemieux wants to talk to you about the Penguins. I'm like, okay, I'll talk. And I didn't know what to expect, first time. So I get to the airport. My buddy picks me up in Pittsburgh, and there's all these TV cameras. And I'm like, what the fuck? And you start to realize this world is a little bit different, right? Met with Mario, and there was just all this stuff. And, I wasn't a hockey guy per se, but it was more about keeping the Penguins in Pittsburgh. And then this guy, Ron Burkle, came in and bailed him out. And so that didn't happen. And then I'm a Mavs season ticket holder. And I'm sitting at the opening night for the 99-2000 season with my girlfriend, now my wife. And I'm like, we're undefeated. It's the first game of the season, right? It's not a sellout. There's no energy in the building. And I'm thinking, oh, man, I could do such a better job. And then it was like the light bulb went off. It's like, oh, wow, now I can put my money where my mouth is. So I talked to Mark Aguirre, Mavs legend Mark Aguirre, who then connected me to Ross Perot Jr., who only looked at the team as a real estate investment. And I was like, okay, would you be interested in selling? And he hit me with this super high price, $285 million.
Super high.
Yeah, right. And I just said yes, which I knew was just shocking. But in my mind, like my Yahoo stock was going up $100 a day. And so I paid for it in one day. So I was like, let's just go and get this over with.
I mean, that's unbelievable.
That's pretty wild.
But people look at it now. I posted this the other day that it's worth $4.5 billion now. And people go, oh, Mark's so lucky. But the truth is, you really are a major part of helping build the NBA brand, which, of course, brought the Mavericks with you. I mean, you made it really cool for the small market teams, in my opinion.
Well, I wouldn't take that much credit, right? But, luck always plays. I mean, I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, I sure kicked their ass every step of the way, right? I wasn't taking things for granted. And I was getting fined, right? Like shit that everybody said, just be a fucking owner and shut up, right? And I'm like, no, man, this is a dream. Like you talked about every Jewish kid growing up, and like, I couldn't even dream that big to possibly own a team. And then when I finally got it, I mean, I was playing one-on-one with Dirk Nowitzki. I mean, come on now. Like even to this day, before a home game, I'll try to get there a few hours early and just get up shots in my arena before my team playing in a playoff game. I mean,
it's the coolest thing ever.
It is the coolest thing ever. And I try not to pinch myself every day because it's, you never want to take it for granted. I've met some amazing people. Today we announced, sometimes it changes, right? We announced today that we're hiring Jason Kidd and Nico Harrison to be our GM and VP. And so it's a hard business, but just, going from the day, I remember there was one right when I first bought the team, right? And I'm like, okay, the way I managed was I was going to connect to everybody. So, I wanted to meet the guys who sit on the floor and they're sitting there, and then they run and pick up all the jerseys.
They run out, they
sweep the floor, right? Then they pick up the jerseys and put them in, right? And so I got to get to know these guys. Big Al, the players all know. I'm like, so I'm going to sit down there with it. I'm just going to sit on my ass right next to him. No big deal, right? Players, no big deal. David Stern calls me up in a panic. What the hell are you doing? That's not the way an owner's supposed to act. Literally, I got fined, I think it was $100,000 for conduct unbecoming an owner.
For sitting on the floor?
For sitting on the floor because I wanted to get to know our equipment guys.
But that's what I'm saying. You were, whether you want to be or not, you were a trendsetter, and now it's become the owner is kind of as cool as some of the players.
Well, and the part two cool part, right? When Michael Jordan bought the Hornets, and they said, what kind of owner are you going to be? He goes, I want to be like Mark Cuban. And I'm
like, that's a good one. That's a feather in the cap.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That is pretty good. So we got to ask you a little, a little stressful shit. Luka's my favorite player.
He's amazing.
I mean, what happened with Carlisle? Is that Luka or not?
It's not. No, it's definitely not Luka. I'll tell you exactly what it is. And Rick's a great coach, and I love Rick to death. And we would have this conversation. Kids today, like you grew up with sports, you have your heroes, right? And there's different generations, and all the athletes are different. When you go back and talk to Messier, or look, and he tells stories about the NHL, right? Or Barry Bonds and in their generation, it was toughness and this and that. kids today, a 20-year-old, 22-year-old kid is completely different than a 22-year-old was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And relating to them is different. Like somebody was telling me yesterday, actually, it was like there's kids today have so many inputs and so many distractions, and basketball is just one of them. You know, when we were growing up, if you were into sports, you know, it's like the movie Diner, right, where he quizzes his girlfriend, right? That was what it was about.
Right.
And that's just not the case anymore. You know, sports is just one part of it, and it's hard to connect to those kids.
And it's so funny you said Diner because that was such a big influence on Entourage in
Early-
my
it's
life
one
and
of
my
Doug's
career.
references for Entourage, always.
Always.
Yeah. And so, you know, the other question, how do you feel suckered in the Trae Young-Luka trade?
No, what a question. No.
You know,
no, I'm happy for both sides.
It's amazing that Trae is going where he is, and we
Yes.
were just talking about this, but I think Luka's ceiling, he could eventually be as good as anybody ever. I mean,
He has that shot.
I am obsessed with him, and I
I'll
hope
wait
it
till you
all
meet him.
goes.
He is such a good kid, man. You just want his face lights up. People, you know, you can tell when someone has charisma when they walk into a room and everybody else's face lights up.
Right.
You know, and that's people around.
But
like
he's
that.
chippy, too. He's a competitor.
Oh no, for sure.
You know,
That's the X factor, ultimately.
you just feel like you don't fuck with him, and
right,
he
like
feels
he's
gonna
he's
get it
playing
done.
to win,
Yeah.
for
Oh,
sure. You know, he's all smiles, and then he's going to
Oh
kill
no,
you.
he'll kill you. Right. That's exactly who.
And
he is.
Kid and him should be a great combination.
And that's the
exciting.
whole point, right? Because Jason's been a player's coach, and he's a point guard, right?
Right.
And you want somebody who can, you know, tell Luka where things are going to happen. You know, where we didn't have that person.
Yeah.
And also, too, like being a head coach for a team, is it at a certain point you just need to change the scenery?
You know,
Every certain
that's what people say, right? At some point, that voice kind of runs silent, and guys
falls
tune
on
you out.
deaf ears. right?
Yeah, but you know, I like what Steve Nash has done in Brooklyn, and we kind of emulated that with this hire, where you know they got D'Antoni, and I'm not saying we're going to hire a D'Antoni type or whatever. That'll be up to Jay Kidd, but at the same time, you know, you got Nash hugging Durant after that game, right? And you've got that, you know, Nash is just a relationship person. And it used to be, and I used to feel strongly this way, that having an in-games X and O expert gave you the ultimate advantage. But now I think having a relationship person, right, somebody who can connect to the players, because that's what gets them to go a little bit harder, right? And that's what, you know, when the chips are down and every team has a bad run, one way or the other, you want somebody that just is a relationship person. It's not that Rick isn't good at that. He was, but it's just harder to relate to a 22-year-old.
Right. And so just a thought on Durant for a second.
Uh-huh.
Nash, who was on the show. We had Steve
love
on the
Nash.
show.
He was a good actor.
And Durant, who is a fan of the show, but I love his game so much. I thought, in my opinion, he's 1 inch away. That shot goes in. In my opinion, if he wins
over.
the title this year, which I think it would have been easy for him, it's LeBron, Michael, and him.
Yep.
Am I crazy
talk.
with that?
Yeah,
No,
well, without
not at all.
Kobe Bryant, now you're not gonna put Kobe
No.
there?
I mean, yeah, Kobe, you can't, you know, is Kobe, right? KD is KD.
Right.
And KD doesn't, he's a lot like Dirk, right? He's underappreciated because he doesn't do the marketing. He's not out there doing interviews all the time. He's got an edge to
I
him.
love it. He tells
Yeah.
the press to shut the
he's
fuck
saying-
up.
Yeah.
Yes, he's got that
sensitive.
edge. Oh,
He's
I can't
not
even
built-
tell you what
he's
he
not
would say
built
to
for
me
it.
when KD first came into the league, and I would yell, "You're palming the ball," and he would look at me and say some shit I can never repeat.
Yeah, but by the way, you say he's not built for it. I think he's completely built for it. I think he's this generation that
Yes.
says, I don't need the press. I'm going to get on the court. I'm going to score 48. And it's just a shame that he couldn't win that game because he did everything.
You know,
not
I
going
even
anywhere.
DM'd him saying, "Man, you're amazing," and he was like, "Thank you, brother." But you're right, because, you know, media changed. It used to be you had to have relationships with media in order for your voice to be heard. Now the media kind of kisses your ass because you already have a voice.
Yeah.
And you can control the message as much as you want to. And, you know, and if you've got an edge to you like KD does, he's that passive aggressive who's going to get his message out the way he wants to.
I have a media question for you. Obviously, you're very media savvy, and I don't want to get into like bashing Skip it, whatever it is.
Yeah,
but you
which was
showed
fun.
up. So Mark shows up on First Take, and I guess it was you guys. Was it the year you guys won? Was
No,
it?
it's the year after.
Okay, so it's the year after, and the way I read it is they're doing their thing, Skip Bayless and First Take, and they're trashing whatever player for doing whatever. And Mark says, "All right, you know what? I'm coming in."
Well, the
right?
first step. First step is I put up a picture of my son who was 2 at the time, right? and it's just him, my little 2-year-old, and it was something to the effect of "I know basketball" or something like that. And I'm like, my son knows more about basketball than Skip Bayless. So obviously, then they invite me on, and I'm thinking I'm going to get sabotaged, right? Something crushed him. I kept on waiting for he's got to be hot. I'm thinking to myself, okay, they're going to pull out the hammer and come after me at some time. Even Stephen A. was quiet.
Not
was
a
shocking.
word out of his mouth.
Not a word.
Well, I think Skip.
Did you ever see it?
I did see it.
Oh.
I think Skip.
Rewatch that one. We're going to run that as a social clip.
But you know
it's
what the
a
difference
massacre.
is? Skip is, in my opinion, he's performing and
Yes,
he's planning,
100%.
and you're being you, and that's why it works,
That's
and
why it
that's why
worked.
you beat them. And
But
that's,
you looked pissed. You looked pissed. And you keep it. Except during games, maybe you look emotional. But for the most part, you got a pretty good poker face.
Chill.
You were bent out of shape on first take.
Yeah, it was like one of those things where when you go into some place, you're not sure what the rules are, but you're ready for war, right? And you're thinking in your mind, okay, what are they going to ask me? Is this going to be an ambush interview or whatever? And you're ready. And so I was ready to fight, right? And they just kept on throwing me softballs, And so I just, okay, let me just bang that shit.
Skip Bayless said something along the lines of, "Did LeBron not listen to me?" Something like Skip Bayless, and whatever. He's fun to watch.
He's an entertainer.
He's doing his job.
He's doing his job.
Skip Bayless is Skip Bayless.
I'm not
going to. But the notion that LeBron James would be
and
watching
that's what I
first
said, right?
take and go to Skip Bayless. Oh, you know what? He's right. I got to start taking that ball into the paint. Really, Skip? And he believed it. And Mark is like, Are you crazy?
I'm like, Skip, nobody listens to you. No one listens to you.
Certainly not LeBron.
Right?
You really changed you turned LeBron's game around, Skip.
Well, if you watch now, Stephen A. is on a Ben Simmons tirade. It's day after day after day of killing this kid.
Yeah,
He's Australian. He didn't grow up like this. What do you think of Ben Simmons?
I think he's a great player, right? And I've seen lots of guys, things get in their head, and that just motivates them. And I think that's what's going to happen. It's funny. I saw clips of Ben Simmons when he came, when he got drafted and played in summer leagues, and he was jacking up shots and making them.
I saw before the season started, he was taking the threes, and I'm like, if this guy can shoot, game over. Then you got real problems.
Guys mature at different times, right?
Yeah, right.
And it was funny because he was talking because during the pandemic, I had to sit in a certain place with my mask on and everything away from everybody, and it was right underneath the basket, and somebody was shooting a free throw, and Ben was right there, and he says to me, "I can guard anybody, and they can't guard me." I'm like, okay, Ben, okay. But he's confident, right? He's just got to get through that, whatever that inhibitor is that he's got shooting the ball, but he will, right? Because you just can't stay that way, and even the worst shooters in the NBA get shots up.
Yeah, and they get better.
And they get better.
Karl Malone became this amazing shooter and free throw shooter.
Look, I'll tell you a quick story. I was talking to somebody on the Spurs who said they were playing pickup with Kawhi Leonard when they first drafted him, and they just traded George Hill, who was an up and coming star. He literally George Hill beat the Mavs by himself in 2009, and they're like, we're playing pickup with Kawhi, and he can't shoot.
Right.
Can't shoot at all.
That's amazing.
Well, he was trying to not shoot.
He was not when he came.
Shoot,
but when he came into the league, he was not a scorer. He was this defensive specialist.
Yeah, man, he can get to the basket. He was a slasher. Right.
Right.
And now, so we're playing the Clippers in the playoffs, and I get there early to shoot, and I stick around because Kawhi comes out to work out, and I said this to some more guys. Every place that you have seen him take a shot in an NBA game or a playoff game, that's the only places he worked on his game. And he did it for 35, 40 minutes, right baseline, elbow, straightaway three, left elbow, left baseline. Bam, 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 bam. And then some guys contesting, so he got used to, like a machine.
It's amazing. He is a machine. And watching him, you just go, every time he has the ball, he can do whatever he wants. It's really bizarre. So,
also, too, sorry to interrupt you, Doug. Last question about sports. With a guy like Ben Simmons, at what point does a change of scenery necessary? And can that help him find what it is that you're talking about?
Yeah, because any business, you guys with Entourage, right? Guys are best friends, know each other, but you also piss each other off a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
More on this podcast than ever.
Yeah, right?
Couple close calls in here, Mark, over the last year.
With Julius Randle on the air, too.
Oh, really?
We almost had a three-way fight.
Julius Randle was sitting in this chair, and Doug and Dillon were exchanging words. It was super awkward. We ended up cutting it out, thank God. But
Julius is a Dallas guy, man.
Yeah.
What a sweet kid, Julius.
Oh, no, he's a good kid. So anyway, Yeah, so you get on each other's nerves, and there's a dynamic that develops. And, they bring in a new coach. You don't bring in a new coach with that team unless there's something going on, right? So I'm not going to, I can't talk about other teams' player in terms of trade other than to say, it happens where sometimes a change of scenery for any player.
Anybody.
I mean, look at Nash, my biggest mistake, right? Nash leaves the Mavs.
Yep.
My medical staff is saying, he had gone from 32 minutes a game to 29 minutes a game, and we thought that might keep on going lower. He busted his ass to prove us wrong and becomes a 2-time MVP.
Yeah, Hall of Famer. And just on a side note, I know you can't talk real trades and stuff, but since we had a big hand in helping your TV career, Luka on the Knicks with Julius Randle would change everything.
Doug is a sad Knicks fan, Mark.
But that's what Julius needs. He needs a point guard, like a real point guard. That can, it's not going to be Luka, I know.
Yeah, it's not going to be Luka.
It's not going to be Luka. Well, let me ask you, what are your thoughts on guys? I look at a guy like Damian Lillard, right? Who he just leaves it out. I mean, have a guy like that on your team. Clearly, he likes Portland. He wants to win in Portland. Is it okay at some point to go, hey, guys, the end is near. I got to make a run at a chip.
Yeah, I mean, all guys do that.
Right.
All guys make those decisions on the careers, and they earn that right.
I think everyone's got to do what they got to do. Durant got all this, if I could play with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond, I would do it too. Right. I don't care if I was the best in the world or not. I mean, why wouldn't you? So let's move off of sports and go back to your beginning of your media career. We want to get into Shark Tank, but you come on to Entourage. You've never acted, correct?
Not for real, no.
So what did you feel intimidated? Did you feel comfortable?
So I took acting classes when I came to LA at one point because I wanted to meet girls, and so I just kept on remember what the guy's name was, Aaron Spicer, who still has his acting thing, right? And he used to talk about just be yourself, right? Be conversational and don't act. And, and because the hardest part going into there was my fear of not memorizing my lines. And you were cool. You're like, just get close, right? Just get the point across. And once you said that, then it got easy, right? But I was terrified initially.
You were awesome.
I directed 2 of those episodes, right? And the other thing I remember, this is a funny story. You let us shoot on your plane, which is
nice.
Is
good. Yeah.
Because I know that's it. It's a personal thing, right? You don't want a camera crew anywhere near your house or anything that you want. Never mind, the plane. So it was a little, and I remember you had your BlackBerry, and I was like, you're like, where should I sit? And I was like, well, where do you sit? And you're like, right there. When I lay here on my back and type on my BlackBerry, I go, there it is. So if you watch the scene, you're like chilling on the couch, like typing on your BlackBerry, so. That was well,
that's the
cool.
thing. We wanted you to be as you could be, and you were, and it gave us a good thing. Which then you come back for the movie, which I got to throw this out, and we'll transition into Shark Tank. But Saigon, do you remember what Saigon pitched you?
No.
Dude wipes. Essentially.
Oh, that's right.
He mentioned that,
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Saigon.
Dude wipes is killing it now.
Saigon may sue you. It's funny. Everyone tells me, like, why don't you get the lawsuits out for all the products that came? But the truth is, as we're going to talk about, I got my mush, which Connolly makes fun of me all the time.
I just feel like you're here for a half an hour, and then you wait. And then you chew into the microphone.
I get tired. I'm talking. It
need your energy.
Me.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a great product. But while we're on products, let me just tell you, I can't count how many times people ask me how much money I made off of Avion. Right? Do I really own? Yeah. Do I really own Avion? To this day, people, if I'm in a club or in a restaurant, people will send me shots of Avion, and I'm like, I hate tequila.
Which, by the way, though. When we had dinner in Dallas, because I had Ken Austin, the real Ken Austin, who Bob Odenkirk played, they talked to you because I wasn't involved in going investing, but they were like, do you want to invest in this? And I think you were kind of like, I'm just acting, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not an investor.
I'm having a good time acting.
That's exactly what I said.
I don't want to get into have a business discussion right here.
So, but when we get into Shark Tank, because Connolly and I are both obsessed. I've seen every episode multiple times, and I have every product. I mean, the mush is one. Right. The Supergirl, the back brace, the chirp wheel, the home pod.
Are those all, was the back brace on Shark Tank?
Oh, yeah.
He does. He comes in and he rocks all these products. I'm saying, Doug, it sounds like we're doing ad reads, and we're not. He just really likes the products.
I like the products. It makes it more authentic. So, but I came to visit the set. Remember I brought J.J. Watt down there a couple of years ago before he was, big enough to not need me to call you. So Shark Tank happens. And what were you expecting? Then I want to just
so
hear
I'll tell you
some
the
of it.
backstory, right? So they called me in like 2009, And I'm like, yeah, I'm interested. They send me copies of the show, and I'm watching it, and it didn't work out. They picked who they picked, right? Then up in L.A., hanging out with my friends in Manhattan Beach, and I just get blasted with them, right? And then I get a text, tomorrow morning, can you come in and audition? So I had to audition, right? And which is cool, right? And they're tossing me questions and how I'm going to answer it. So, and this was 2010. And so I'm thinking, okay, it's on ABC. The show is bouncing around. One night it's on Tuesday night. The next time, it's a replacement for Desperate Housewives, and it's not going to last.
It's like a summer show,
yeah, exactly.
right? Like a summer filler.
Yeah, it's a fill-in, right? It's not going to last. So they bring me on. They bring Jeff Foxworthy on as a guest, right? He does 3 episodes. They bring me on as a guest for 3 episodes, and I'm like, this shit's not going to last. So I'm just going to buy up everything, and I'm just going to raise hell. And that's exactly what I did. And then all of a sudden, they're like, oh, okay, do you want to come back? And then the next year is when it took off, right?
It's weird because initially it felt like the businesses and the products were kind of bullshit. And then it started getting real.
100%. You're exactly right. Because when I first was on there were some dumbass products, right? And they just, people didn't know the show. And so they had to go out and literally beg companies to come on. There's one where you insert something in your ear and it sends these brain waves. That's just like ridiculous shit, right?
I remember that episode.
Yeah,
my friend was on that I grew up with. He's not my friend anymore. I haven't seen him in forever, but great guy, Howie Bush. Do you remember the dude robe?
The dude robe.
The dude robe. It was basically just a
clearly
robe for
Mark
dudes.
Clearly, Mark was
don't
out
remember.
On that
Yeah,
one.
don't
You guys,
remember.
I wonder if you sat that one out, but basically, you guys just kind of abused him, and then he said he was Under Armour lawyer, and they offered him stock, and he didn't take it instead of salary, and you guys were like, "What an idiot!"
But there's some great dumb ones too. There was one guy had bedhead, right, which you can do so many things with, right? So I'm dying the whole time, and literally it was like a shower cap. That, when you wake up in the morning and your hair's all funky and you might take a shower, but you don't have time to take a shower. So you fill it with water, roll it, put it on your head, undo it. And now it's like you took a shower, only your head got wet, right? Bedhead. And I'm like, it's brilliant. I didn't do a deal.
One of the things that I saw, I'm always one of those guys, when I wash my hands in a bathroom of a public place, I stare at the door handle and go, I just washed my hands. This fucking the dirtiest door handle in the world.
I always take the
well,
thing
I'll use the paper
and
towel,
right.
or you do something. And on Shark Tank, there it is, the foot stopper, where they
Right,
basically
right.
put you bolt it to the bottom of the door, you put your foot on it, you give it a fucking whip back, and the door opens. I'm like, that's the easiest and greatest idea I've ever heard. And now I feel like I see them everywhere. You guys got that? They sold. They made a sale.
I don't
there,
even
right?
know. I have no idea.
The door stopper.
I've seen thousands.
But
of
in
those.
the real world, have these investments been successful for you?
So of the 80 plus, it's probably over 100 now. I've lost count. I'd say 20, 25%, maybe 30% have been sold or crushed it or are crushing it. Probably the same percent, maybe a little bit less, are just turn out to be morons, right? And just were fuck ups. And then in the middle, they're grinding still. Some of them are doing well, and paid me back my money 2 or 3 times over. Others are just like, just covering the bills and still hoping to make it. My best one was a company called Cycloramic. And they came on with an app that worked on an iPhone 5. And that's when the bottom of an iPhone 5 was flat. And it was an app you downloaded, and it made the sensors made the iPhone rotate into a panoramic picture. Well, when they changed the iPhone, they had to pivot, right? But these guys had a lot of video expertise, and they went into computer vision and really advanced stuff, and got into working with car companies and online sales companies so that, when you wanted to buy a car online, all their video that they would do was done by this company. And they got bought by Carvana like 3 years ago. Most of it was in stock, and the stock was $18 at the time, and now it's like $280.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's an oh, my God.
So now, did you see something in him specifically? Because that's what I think is interesting about you. I think you, and I love all of them, by the way. I've met a couple of them, but you seem to see the real technology behind some of this stuff and get into it when nobody else is looking at it. And you're like, I'll go for a big deal on this one. So have you found other ones like that where you really found some great guys that you could do other stuff with as opposed to just their company?
I mean, there's been a lot of them. But in terms of tech, that's been my best technology one. There's one, Mesh Tech. And they do this thing called mesh networks using low power Bluetooth. And now they're moving into, these diversified. So how they started out with lights in your front yard. and how you would connect them, because you couldn't put them on Wi-Fi or anything. And so they used Bluetooth to connect them. And now that expanded to houses, that expanded to businesses. Now they're licensing that. And so they're growing. It took them a while, but they're growing and doing really crazy stuff. And then they're doing some crypto stuff now with tokens. So it's really cool.
All right, good. Well, as long as you brought up crypto.
Right? Why not, right?
Why
Go
not?
for it,
You
Doug.
know,
Yeah, let's do
I
it.
mean, you know, an old friend of mine was at the center of the GameStop stuff. He was one of the big short sellers that
Oh, he got
everyone
crushed?
went,
He's in hiding. I mean,
No, he's made so much money and he's done well. I think I introduced you to him once upon a time, actually. Andrew left, but
Yeah, I know Andrew. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
he's done great and he's doing fine. But
Andrew is a short-selling legend.
yeah,
he
so
really is. That's crazy.
yeah, I introduced him to Connolly 20 years ago. I mean, we had his name on the show season 2 or 3, like we pretended an agent was him. But we're trying to figure out the world. We actually have an artist that did work for the show. That not work for the show. His art was on the show. He was a great artist, this guy Bua. So he called me up. He said, I want to do an NFT for you guys. Okay, I like the podcast. I like the show. I am having trouble getting this. Can you give me the dumb guy's explanation of this?
Sure. I mean, it's just a digital collectible. Put aside all the technology. If you think about, back when phones didn't have quite as much storage, probably the hardest time in a person's life was having to figure out what to delete when they were running out, right? Because it's like, I can't delete this picture. For kids in particular, digital files, digital assets are more valuable in their lives than anything else. Where we grew up with a baseball card, right? If I had my Willie Stargell, my Roberto Clemente, my Dave Parker, to me, that's the ultimate. I still have some of them. But a digital version of that is just much more efficient, because I can, for an NFT of a card, let's say, or a Top Shot, right, for the NBA, I can look it on my phone. I actually created a company called lazy.com. So if you want to see my NFTs, lazy.com/mcuban.
I looked.
Yeah, right. So I got some cool stuff on there, some junk, but it's really easy for me just to show it to anybody. I can put it on my TV. I can do anywhere. Whereas with a card, if it has any real value,
it's in a safety deposit box.
That's exactly
right.
right. And if you're trying to sell it, you got to package it, you got to grade it, you got to ship it, you got to hope they receive it, you got to hope they don't rip you off. There's no friction in buying and selling NFTs.
So you don't think you need an attachment of a physical item as
No,
well?
No, kids are different, right? Because if I get it on my phone, and look, it's like the Entourage soundtrack on MP3. It still sounds just as good, and it's just as important. You don't need an LP. You don't need a CD, right? You don't need a DVD for movies anymore. That still has value. And this is the same thing. So if you put aside the technology part of it,
you can bust it out at dinner. Be like, hey, you could be in the club being like,
you could buy a Mona Lisa, right? You ain't putting it on your wall, right? And even if it's something like, maybe it's a cast picture and you got it blown up and it's on over your couch, right? 20 people are seeing it. That's it, right?
Well, maybe I'm going to show you this Bua picture. Maybe you'll pay a couple of $1 million for it.
I'm not saying I'm paying $1 million.
He's here. He ain't paid $1 million for anything.
But I do go around and I buy them. Like, there's a company I invest in, Mintable.app, and they do like low-cost NFTs. And lots of times you'll see like really talented artists. And if I buy an NFT, it's because I like the work.
Right.
So I might spend $20 or $200, and with $200 for an artist is incredible, particularly when they're unheard of, and get some work that I think is really amazing.
So it's all what it sells for. So we could do an NFT and it sells or it doesn't.
Yeah, well, everything is all what it sells for, but I'm just.
But I'm
trying
saying
to figure
somebody
out
could pay $200, somebody could pay $200.
Yeah, and really
$200 million.
Yeah, well, you saw
nobody's
some of the crazy.
paying $200 million of a picture of you. I can assure you that.
When NFTs really started to hit, it was interesting because there was more demand from tech geeks who were into that than there was supply. So literally, I put stuff out there that I just wanted to test it. So I went to Mintable and then Rarible, and I took a picture of me walking into the arena to work out, thinking nobody's going to want to buy it. Sold 10 of them for $25 a piece in Ether. I'm like, this is crazy. But the crazier part is, and what really got me excited was with NFTs, they use this thing called smart contracts, so you can assign a royalty. So when I posted this NFT, and this works for all NFTs, I said I want a 25% royalty anytime it's resold. And so the collectors that come in, this is early in the game, this is February, I think, and they're buying and selling, buying and selling, buying. Every time I'm making 25%, I'm going, oh shit, this is amazing.
And you can pass that down to your kids. How do you do that? Like, is that generational? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. I mean, presuming that people are buying and selling it, and someone doesn't hold it. But, and it's just a proof of concept. The collectible side is, I mean, imagine textbooks. There's no good reason to have physical textbooks anymore. But they do it because publishers don't make money on resale if you go all digital. But now with this, they'll go digital, because if I have my Marketing 101 college textbook, physical books, you got to take it to the used bookstore, go buy it. It's a pain.
It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
I would just say, listen, I'll just. No, I'm not going to study.
Right. I'm not going to get a book. I did that many times, right? I did that many times.
I think all three of us did.
Yeah, right.
So, but it's also then brings me to crypto, which I guess is similar. You said recently gold is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so Bitcoin is for real to you.
Yeah, Bitcoin is digital gold, right? Supply and demand is undefeated, right? As long as there's a market for something, and people see it as a store of value. I mean, what use is gold anyways? There's some industrial uses in computers and stuff, but that's like 7% of the market, right? Then there's jewelry. Now, you happen to like gold, great, but you don't need it, right? It's just all perception, just supply and demand. Bitcoin, and then if you want to actually own gold, no one takes delivery on it. So it's effective. If you buy gold, as an investment, it's effectively digital anyways.
Right, but you're not lugging around gold bars.
No one, and it's useless, right? If you had a gold bar, someone's just going to take your gold bar, right?
You're get robbed.
You're going to get robbed, right? Whereas with Bitcoin, it doesn't have a lot of utility, right? It's not a currency or anything, even though some people try to make it. But it's just a store of value. And because there's it's algorithmic scarcity, they're only going to make 21 million of it. As long as more people buy it, the price is going up. When more people sell it, the price goes down. But like gold, as long as people hold it in some manner, the price is going to go up. And that just makes it simpler. And if you want to sell it, it takes like 3 seconds. And then there's all the other crypto, which I think is just game changing.
It's just wild. The world is changing so fast. I'm trying. So
it's like the early days of the internet. Literally, like, I don't even look at regular stocks anymore. They're boring. Right, I look at crypto applications, not so much tokens. Like, okay, which token's going up, which token's going down. I've played that game, won some, lost some, but the applications you can build, whether it's NFTs, like I got involved with this insurance application for weather insurance. Like, if you just go online and you say, okay, if the weather in Dallas in this zip code falls below 0 degrees and you have 4 inches of precipitation, meaning it snowed more than Dallas has seen, I'm willing to pay this much to get this much coverage. Don't have to talk to anybody. If I want to borrow money, like, I got a good relationship with my bankers, but if I want to borrow $2 million, I got to go fill paperwork out, get all these approvals. If I have $4 million in crypto and I want to borrow $2 million, I go to a site like aave.com, AAVE. I already have the collateral. It takes me 30 seconds and I can borrow it.
It's crazy.
As opposed to sitting down at the bank.
Yeah, dealing with it and all that shit, right? So personal banking changes dramatically.
So, Mark, before we let you go, and maybe Kevin has other things. Kevin has started out. He was an actor, Emmy nominated, Golden Globe nominated. Now he started this business. And let's say Kevin wanted to go. Well,
this is where Doug and I have been going back and forth. This is where the Shark Tank comes.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not involved in this. But Kevin, let's say he wants to grow this business. Yeah. He wants to come in front of the tank, and he comes in. Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, so just for numbers' sake, I'm going to say I'm looking for $1,000 for 10% of the company.
Why don't you go for a real number?
Well, okay.
Because I'd give you $1,000 for
10%. By the way, Mark might go write you a check for $5 million.
So assuming you're interested in the premise, and I say, all right, I want $1 million for 10% of the company. What would be the first 3 questions that you ask me?
What are your sales? Is number 1. What's your audience size? Number 2. How come you're not 10 times that size? Number 3.
And are you growing? Is that
that's the whole thing. How come you're not 10 times that size?
Right. And are you shocked? Just going back to Shark Tank again. I'm now stunned when
I'm
people.
I'm thinking about the answers to those questions.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course, you got to.
We'll get to you there in a second. But that you're thinking, what I'm stunned by is the amount of people that come on Shark Tank, knowing that you're going to ask questions like this, and they still don't have the answers. Yeah. They don't know their numbers.
And I'll tell you what makes it even worse. The producers, because it's television, right? You don't want to be.
Right?
Yeah, they make them practice like. During the pandemic last year, they literally had to sit in a room and quarantine for 8 to 11 days. So they were all in, right? But they had time to practice, yeah.
Not to run their business, though, from the quarantine.
Right.
But guys, how could you get tripped up on that question?
Well, I think, do you think people freeze? I mean,
yeah. Oh, we had one guy faint. They didn't make it. 25% of the people who pitch us don't even make it on air.
You made my friend Tyler Thompson is a very successful movie producer. He owns Cross Creek Pictures. His uncle was on. I'm blanking what his product was. It was like a boxing thing.
Oh yeah,
you guys made him cry.
The one that had the different things.
Exactly.
Yeah. You punched it, and I went up there and punched it, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that wasn't bad. And it's doing well now, I think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a great product, but
the pitch
didn't have
wasn't
the
there.
answers.
Yeah, the pitch wasn't there.
And the big miss was the ring, right? Ring.
No, that wasn't a miss at all. The way he presented it. So. you talk about my investing perspective. Like,
so let me just tell everybody, Ring, two things come to this. Ring is obviously, the doorbell thing.
Right.
Pitched on Shark Tank, was worth $1 billion. Before Shark Tank, Andrew Left and I sat with him in Vegas where he was looking for a little bit of money. And I would just
sounds like a terrible idea.
I was just looking. Honestly, I didn't have any opinion. I was looking at Andrew. If Andrew said, let's do it, I would have been like, all right. So I'm a loser too. But
So it wasn't called Ring at that point in time. I forget what it was called, but it was just what the product is now. And the whole thing coming on was marketing, right? It was really a marketing company. It wasn't a technology company. And sometimes in those cases, you're going to have to spend $100 million to do $25 million in business, and that's what ended up with Ring, right? They got bought by Amazon, but they had raised $400+ million. And for that type of business, if I'm giving them, I think he wanted $750,000 for 10%, I'm getting diluted to nothing. Right. So my 1% might have been worth, my $750K might have been worth $2 million, which is fine. But the whole time.
But you didn't miss $1 billion.
I didn't miss $1 billion.
Right.
No.
I probably did.
So a few times.
So Connolly, you got the tank right here. This is it.
Come on.
The good news is I could answer all of those questions.
Yeah.
You look nervous though, by the way.
No, I was thinking. Yeah, I mean, what are the first questions that come out?
But I'm just saying. Do you want?
Oh,
you have any
I'm
interest in getting Mark involved in this business?
It doesn't. Listen, we're here. We're recreationally.
This is just fun. All
this
right,
is like them.
But podcast business is hard.
Right.
It is hard.
It's a grind.
It's a grind, right? Yeah. People think, they get all excited. They got the connections. They're good interviewers, right? Great personalities. But bringing people in, the preparation, and then because you don't really have numbers.
Yep.
That's the problem. But wait, I got an answer. So
okay.
I'm an investor in a company called Fireside Chat that's getting ready to launch, and I'll connect you with Fallon if you want. And a big part of what they're doing is you can do an audio thing like this. They'll have video where you can simulcast to all the different platforms, Twitch, YouTube, etc. But the difference is it's tactile. So this is where I came in and helped them out. And so like when you're doing this, we could be telling the best jokes, but you don't have that tactile feel, right?
Right.
You don't know until people say, I love the show, and even then you still aren't real sure. And so if you can invite people into the studio, and while you're talking on your podcast or video on your podcast, there's buttons so they can boo, they can cheer, they can clap.
A little advanced Clubhouse. I thought Clubhouse was going to be a big thing. I don't know anymore, but
yeah,
it sounds
that's exactly
really cool.
right. Yeah,
so
because you want that. It's like if you're doing stand-up comedy and you don't have an audience, there ain't no stand-up comedy, right? Because you can't read the room.
Right.
So if Doug and I were doing a podcast, people could boo or cheer based on what we were talking about.
Exactly right.
Could you imagine
and
that,
you
Doug?
have all the numbers, right? So we give you all the numbers. So first, because you can do it live, you can get that tactile feel. Then you know exactly how many people you invited to be in the room. Second, if it's on demand, they're hearing, it's not a laugh track because it's more interactive. It's not garbagey laugh tracks like television. And third, you're going to get all the data.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
So you know what your business is doing.
Also, too, at this point, what's happening is the social media aspect of it. You can now, with your podcast and your social, sell your ads. It's ever changing. It's still a bit of the Wild West in the podcast world. Still a bit of the Wild West.
Yeah, because it's a very wide industry, but not a very deep industry. Right. And so you've got, everybody looks at Joe Rogan, a couple of the others, and they say, okay, that's the holy grail. Let's get big, but he was there at the beginning, right? Yep. And that was a huge advantage.
He spoke to the wall for 3 years.
Yes, exactly.
He was talking to nobody. And to your point earlier, Doug, he did it because he liked it.
Yeah, and Corolla too.
Yeah, Adam, same thing. Yeah, same thing. But now the hardest part of podcasting is you don't really know what your business is doing.
Right.
And that's the crazy part. So you've got to love it, first of all. You got to enjoy it like you guys do. But that's what Fireside is trying to do. And Clubhouse hasn't solved that yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. Clubhouse 4 months ago I thought was going to take over the world, and now it feels dead to me.
Now it's it's hustle porn.
Yeah.
You got all the people. Oh, what the hell did they call it? Where people are trying to establish names for themselves in all these different areas. There's no curation. So you want to go someplace where there's curation so that you're not around the people, buy this token, crypto token, or, invest in housing and real estate.
You don't know who you're listening to.
Yeah, and you don't even know who you're next to.
Right.
It's almost like that YouTube problem for a long time, for advertisers. Your ad could show up with garbage and it reflects on your brand. And, your brand is everything with a podcast because it's you personally.
Right. So, all right. Well, Mark, this was awesome. But last thing I'm going to bring to you is everybody's telling me to ask you, what are you going to do in this reboot that Kevin Dillon is so desperate to have? Are you back for the Entourage reboot now that you're a bigger star than all of us combined?
He might slide in above me on that call sheet.
You know what, Doug? I owe you guys so much, right? Because you gave me so much. Whatever you want. When you asked me about this, you said you put something on social, and it was like bam. So whatever you guys need, I'm in.
I love you for that, and I appreciate it. And
Doug says to me, we on the last podcast, I'm like, well, let's wait. We don't want to announce it. Let's wait till he gets here. He goes, what do you mean wait till he gets here? Mark will be here.
Oh, hell yeah.
Well, I said, not that I was arrogant to say that you would do what I said, but I said, when Mark says he's going to be there, he's going to be there. We're not getting a call like
No, I'm not one of those guys.
He's got sniffles today.
Well, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
I'm not surprised at all.
30 minutes, 30 minutes of an hour session is a lot.
And Mark was right on time, but also Kevin is texting me earlier. We've had some issues with parking here. Charlie Sheen's car got locked in the garage across the street.
Charlie Sheen came here, did the podcast. He was a little out of his comfort zone.
Right.
He realized that we were friendly.
Right.
He hung out. He goes across. His car is locked in the parking lot.
And he lives in Malibu. And Ubers, by the way, in L.A. are dead. Uber is over in L.A.
Half hour to an hour to get him.
And then he had to Uber back in the morning to
get the car. Oh, that's brutal.
But so Connolly texted me before. He's like, tell Mark we got a spot up front from him. I'm like,
I called Kevin. Yeah.
But I'm like, do you think Mark Cuban is driving himself here?
Yeah,
Going to park in front? And there he was. Mark Cuban pulls up, regular guy.
I've got a place in Manhattan Beach, and I keep an old junker car. 2017 or whatever Lexus, right?
Yep.
Because I just like that feel of getting in my own car and not having to deal with somebody asking me questions or whatever.
But honestly, that's what I love about you, and I think that's what everybody does. They feel your authenticity. They feel it's not a put on, and you're living the dream that we all want to do.
I'm the luckiest motherfucker in the world, man, and I don't want to ever take it for granted. I mean, what you guys did for me, was awesome. Well, absolutely, positively awesome.
Well, we feel the same way, fun, and I'm wishing you the best because I was rooting hard for. I like the Mavs. I love Dirk, and I've loved the team for a long time. Even though I'm a Knicks guy, if you play the Knicks, that's a different issue. But I was rooting.
It was
for you
fun
guys.
talking sports, but you guys are still mostly hockey guys.
I'm a huge basketball guy.
I'm a hockey guy.
Yeah. My oldest love was the Islanders, but I mean, Bernard King was my hero growing up, and
Game 7,
and I did, which hopefully you saw it, the doc on the Knicks, which is when the Garden was Eden that Rappaport directed. So, but anyway, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
We can't thank you enough for doing this.
Thank you so much.
And Kevin Dillon, you may be replaced if Mark's in Manhattan Beach with a Lexus.
Wait, Kevin who? Which Kevin are you talking about?
We got him for the reboot. Dillon, you are on the way out.
He can play Vince, by the way. Mark Cuban
can
totally play Vince.
Right. Aquaman, here I come.
He and Ari are going to represent Mark Cuban. I like it. I like it.
Well, thanks so much. And guys, we'll be back. Victory the Podcast.